Hello, welcome. So, I just wanted to go and post a video on how I view emotions and how my perspective of emotions shifted when I started to personify them. When I looked at emotion as people that I was dealing with instead of experiences out of my control. So, for example, when I would experience anger or fear, I would begin to talk to it. I would ask it, "Hey, why are you here? What's going on? How can I listen? How can I make sure you're heard? What would you like from me? How can I support you?" And when I started asking those questions, I started to realize that my sensory experience with fear or frustration or depression began to shift. It began to be more of a communication, a relationship, a understanding of each other rather than wanting to distract, to push away, to numb out. And what I noticed was our emotions have a lot to say. And a lot of our own wounds and our traumas are held within the frequency of emotion. But first, we need to understand what emotion we are experiencing and what it feels like. How can we differentiate between what emotion we are working through if we don't ask? If we don't fine tune our focus on the sensations in which we experience when in the midst of fear, of anxiety, of worry, of happiness, of joy. How do we know who we are dancing with if we don't know what they feel like within us? And this past year has been a journey into this way of thinking and learning how to process my emotions on a sensory level, learning how to really build my understanding of what each emotion feels like for me. For example, fear feels very debilitating. It feels heavy. I feel it in my legs. At times, I notice that I have a harder time walking. It feels like my legs are dragging behind me. I notice that I smell rotten flesh when fear is around. I notice that I taste tar. I notice that the visualization that I see in my body is black goo or black sludge. And when I am experiencing the heaviness of fear, what I now like to do is tune in to my five senses to be able to witness fear in its entirety, witness what it looks like, what it tastes like, what it feels like, smells like, sounds like. And that way, I learn all about the frequency. I learn how to counterbalance the frequency. I learn how to support the emotion because I know the emotion. And specifically, last maybe 2 weeks ago, I was experiencing fear to the point of all I could do at the present moment was just lay fetal position. So I was laying fetal position on my couch, listening to binaural beats, just allowing myself to be engulfed by this feeling. And as I feel like I'm in Dante's Inferno, I'm just being sucked into this black hole of uncomfortableness. I hear a voice. And this voice is trust, another emotion that I've been working with. And what trust feels like for me is air. It feels like wind kissing my cheek on a crisp fall evening. It feels like I'm jumping out of an airplane and trusting the wind is catching me and that my airbag will deploy. And as I'm deep within these sensations of fear, I hear the frequency of trust coming in, speaking to me. Hi, Ashley. I see you. I hear you. I'm here to witness you. I'm here to hold you. And at first I was like, I don't know what that means. Like, cool. I'm experiencing a lot of fear right now. I don't have time for you. And all of a sudden, that's when it felt as if my emotions begin to balance out. I began to hold the awareness of trust within my electromagnetic field, within my frequency. I begin to hold the sensation of trust within my consciousness. And all of a sudden, that fear, that heaviness of fear, began to turn around. It began to face trust, as if they were having a conversation with one another, as if the frequencies between the two understood each other. And I was able to witness the balance of both frequencies within my body. I could feel the fear in which I was experiencing kind of let go of being alone and feeling abandoned and misunderstood, because the emotion and the frequency of trust was there to hold that space for fear to be seen, to be heard, to be witnessed, to be integrated. And through this experience, I noticed that the rabbit hole in which I had fallen into began to lessen its grip on my body. I began to actually move again. I didn't feel so heavy. I didn't feel like I had to be in fetal position anymore. I felt the intensity, yes, of fear being processed within my consciousness, but I also felt the light of trust holding the vibration of my body up. I literally was feeling as if I was witnessing myself through the perspective, the eyeball lens of trust. I was able to merge my higher self into the timeline of my present self, experiencing fear, and look at myself experiencing that fear and balance myself out. And I can't tell you how cool that felt. It showed me that through listening, intentional listening, and intentional focus, we can hone in on the frequency conversations in which our emotions are constantly having with our body and our electromagnetic body. And we can consciously alter and call in frequencies as we need them. So we do not need to go down the rabbit hole of the experience with these gateway emotions. And gateway emotions for me are these emotions of fear, of anger, of grief. For they aren't negative at all. They're just frequencies that we interact with, that we have relationship with. And through knowing them, understanding them, and witnessing them for their entirety, their frequency, their essence, we are then shown how to move through them and how to solidify and ground in the virtues in which we are learning. Like trust, like gratitude, like love. All those juicy, delicious feeling emotions, those virtues in which we want to hold within our consciousness, we wouldn't feel them without our gateway emotions. So for me, truly honoring every emotion and personifying my experience with each emotion has showed me how to counterbalance the intensity of my conversation with those emotions, and how to use frequency and vibration to balance out my inner workings, balance out my chi, my life force, and really bring conscious awareness to myself, my identity, and how I am responsible for the frequency output that I am living, and how I am responsible for shifting and integrating whatever frequency I want to bring in to help me through those tough experiences, or to just help keep me aligned with my purpose and my message. And yeah, thank you for listening. I hope this was helpful.